Thank you, sir. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 2:30 p.m. and I'm going to call the regular Finance Committee meeting to order. Item 2, committee or public comments. There is no one in the room here. I don't see anyone online. Are there any comments from committee members or staff? All right, very good. Item 3, fraud risk description.
Nothing to report.
That's good news. Item 4, water sales and service policy.
I do have a handout, or I did have a handout. Although, quite frankly, with the budget hearing, or not hearing, but I guess I would suggest that we not spend a lot of time on this.
Okay,
And let the staff have a month to go over it. Although if there's any immediate questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I don't think it'd be all that beneficial to spend a lot of time.
okay, so I see there's some 9 separate questions, and you'd like the staff to take a month to review this list and then get back to you then?
Well, I don't think it's fair to try to ask them to,
I understand.
so,
Okay.
yeah, I think,
So I'll going to go ahead and direct the staff to take a look at this, have some response for us by next month, and we'll move on, with your permission, to the next item, with your concurrence. Was there anything else with water sales and service policy?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, how about state revolving fund, number 5? Thanks, Dan.
Not much to update on that. I have still been involved with the Aqua Working Group. The state released an intended use program draft, so we are reviewing that. I think we're supposed to reconvene sometime in July to go over any comments that we may have about the plan for next year's SRF, and that's where we're at right now.
Well, you'll recall at board direction, I did reach out to both Assemblymember Fong and Senator Grove. Did get a response from Assemblymember Fong's office. I think we reported already that Ty and I had a call with one of his staff members, and he was going to get engaged in this. And then at the board meeting, was it 2 months ago, I believe, Director Ratora said that it should be elevated, and President Boyd was asked to contact Senator Grove's office. I provided President Boyd with the emails that were sent to both Assemblymember Fong and Senator Grove, and the response that we received from Assemblymember Fong. And I don't know if he's followed up or not, but that's where, as far as our involvement, we provided him with the information he needed, and it was up to him to reach out to the office. So.
Okay.
yeah. There's going to be an administrative exec meeting coming up for our next meeting, is that correct? That is, you'll be meeting with Mel.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Would you remind him that he's got that action, I'm going to ask about it?
Sure. I don't need to have to wait till the meeting.
Yeah, well, I think he's had enough time to do something, and it would be nice to find out. Typically Shannon and Vince work very closely together on the same bills, one in the House and one in the Senate.
Sure.
And so I think we're just making a lot more of this than we ought to have to. It ought to be simple, and I'm hoping that Mel just makes it simple and makes it happen.
Okay, is there anything else on state revolving fund? All right, let's move to item 6, active customer account report.
Yes, we distributed a list of the active accounts for the last year by month. Kind of just correcting the previous report that was sent out that Springbrook didn't, it has some issues. We used a different reporting program for this one, so we don't see a falling off of accounts numbers or active accounts as we did in the previous report. Yeah, this is the standard. We usually hover right there around 11,100 active 3/4 inch residential accounts.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's more like what I had expected to see. Did you by any chance go through and also calculate the average consumption like was on the original document we got?
No, not yet.
Okay. So the small handout I see we're down, appears we're down 123. I think it's June at the top of the small graph, chart, table is from June 2022? Correct. Okay, and that's at May 2023, and we're down 123 from last year. Okay, thank you. Stan, anything else? Okay, very good. Oh, no one online, so then we'll go ahead and move on to number 7, first quarter 2023 investment reports.
Yeah, as of the end of March, we have 11,130,000 in unrestricted funds and 1,277,000 restricted for a total of $12,408,000. And then below you can see the different designations for those dollars in the different reserves and permits, funds, fees.
There we go.
So, you can see the 2018 COP is completely empty. We have used it up.
Okay. So the Kern County Treasurer, is that which is being held by our friends in Kern County?
Yeah, that's a interest-bearing reserve account.
So that's $9-10 million. Okay. Cash and bank.
What did we get, about 8% interest on that?
I wish.
I'm sorry, what interest do we get?
I'd have to look. I couldn't tell you offhand.
Hope it's better than the money market. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the investments report?
I'm just curious how, looking at it over the year, how are we doing? I guess this is the second quarterly report we've had. How is it looking relative from the earlier report we had?
Well, it's definitely been going down as we've been doing those capital projects, the tanks and the booster station. That has eaten up the COP project funds, as well as we've taken $1 million from the miscellaneous capital reserve to fully fund that project. So we have seen a decrease over the last couple of years.
But we know exactly where it went, and it was the cash capital.
Correct.
That went, okay.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Okay. Item number 8, budget reports.
Okay, so this is May 2023. We see revenues at almost 9 million, which is about 900,000 below the budget. And expenditures at 15.9 million, which is 600,000 below budget. So we're coming in at a net negative 2 million, which is 344,000 below budget. We have made up ground since the previous month. We were about a negative 600,000 last month. So we've seen some growth in the water sales, probably with the new rates in place. We still anticipate, and you'll see this in the next item, ending the year just about where we had budgeted as far as a net.
Okay.
So we're continuing to watch our expenditures for the rest of this month to make sure we don't blow that out.
All right, any questions on this report?
Yes, I do. Didn't have a lot of time to look at it, but last month, the difference between the revenue and expenditures was 1.6 million. This month, it's 2 million. Are we going to end up with $2 million below budget or
So what you'll see in the
I mean,
next
above
item,
budget?
what you'll see in the next item when we go over our year-end estimates, we anticipate being just below what our budget originally was. When we passed the budget last year, it was a negative $800,000 at the end of the year.
You know, another thing that jumped out at me is last month, the difference between the water sales, the budget and the actuals was $700K. And this month it's dropped way down to $271K. That's a tremendous jump, but you're confident those numbers are absolutely correct?
Yeah, those numbers are exact.
Okay. I guess one other thing that kind of jumped out at me was the GSA fees. Last month, the GSA fees were tracking each other in terms of revenue and expenditure. Very, well, close anyway. It was very close, but certainly close. And now we're seeing a difference of 400,000, whereas before we had a difference of almost nothing.
Yeah,
Are-
remember that we had a change in how we are charging our GA fees.
Right.
That only Tier 2 is paying the GA fees, and we see most of our Tier 2 usage in the summer months. So
Yeah, right.
we're going to see that being shifted over to summer months and receiving much less in the winter months.
Okay, so we do have one more month, and that is a summer month.
Yeah.
So that will help.
It's almost like a month and a half with the accrual. We will have kind of a month and a half there that will be when we accrue back the revenue in July.
Okay. And also, one other thing I noted, and I'll be bringing this up a little later when we get to the budget, is if you look at the GSA fees expenditures, it appears if you divide the delta 627,000 by $2,235 per acre foot, it would appear that we are pumping right around 280 acre feet less than what we had budgeted. Would you agree with that?
Over the whole year, that's probably not far from accurate.
Okay, and I've got some.
This year, we're at what, 100 and,
Yeah, after the first 5 months of this year, I think we're about 190 acre feet less compared to last year, first 5 months.
Oh, as a matter of fact, I took the liberty of updating the chart that you gave us earlier, and I've got a chart that I'll give out when we talk about the budget, but actually it looks like it's closer to 250 feet or more, but we'll get to that.
I don't know what numbers you're using. I'm using actual production numbers for the first 5 months of this year. That's what I'm,
Right, yeah. I've been taking those numbers off of what you've been giving us, and I'll show you when we get there. But it's closer to 250 or 300 acre feet less in terms of production. But we'll go over that, I
I
guess.
don't know how your numbers could be different than my numbers when my numbers are actual numbers.
Well, right, no, I agree.
Well, let's table this until later.
Yes,
If there's a disagreement, you guys can handle that off.
also to note that those GSA fees do still include, I think last year when we were paying based on the 40-10 So we haven't taken any credit for that as of yet, so that is still represented in there.
I'm sorry, 40, we're,
The 4010,
there is no 4010, it's 4390.
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Last year we paid based on 4010 and that hasn't been reconciled
Yeah,
out of this.
Well, we need to reconcile that then.
Yes.
That's something, we had a discussion, and we'll apparently have another discussion. But 4390 is the correct number, and we'll go over that.
Right, he's talking
And-
about
and
billing in the
probably-
past, not billing currently.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, yeah, in terms of, I guess, the existing dollars and cash flow, if that's what we paid, that's what we paid. We just need to make sure that
Oh,
that's not.
I don't think anybody, I think we're all in violent agreement.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so these numbers are accurate based upon that
Right.
assumption. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay, what's next, Ty?
So that's everything for the budget reports,
Okay,
unless you have any questions on the graphs or.
don't think so. Anything?
I'm sorry?
Are we good? Can move
Oh,
on?
with regard to, yeah, the monthly update, yeah,
All right.
okay. And then going on to the,
Item 9, financial statements.
no, I'm sorry. No, I want to discuss the budget.
That's coming up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
We're getting there, I promise. Preliminary,
Which number are we on?
So I think we skipped over 8 and that's probably my,
budget reports. No, I called 8.
I know, and it's probably my fault.
Oh.
I went ahead to the financial statements because I think Stan had
If
some,
you want to take them in a different order, that's fine with me.
because I think Stan had some comments he wanted to make on the report.
Okay,
layout.
thank you for that. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Stan.
Oh, are we back on?
Yes, we have traveled back in time to number 8.
Back in time to number 8, okay. The plot that you have in front of you is basically your, Don's original plot. And I have updated it for 2023 based upon the first 5 months of this calendar year. And so that's nothing more than a running 12-month average of the monthly data that you've been giving us in terms of production. So if nothing else changes between now and the end of the year, our production will be down from 5872 down to 5574. But in my mind, it's probably going to go down further.
I don't know.
That is, in the first 5 months of the year, we've gone down, I guess it's 298 acre feet.
The first 4 months of this year, we saw some significant decreases from the previous year. May, this last month, it's not as significant compared to last year, so I don't know. As we get into summer months, it's probably likely that they'll be closer compared to last year, I would anticipate. Although with the new rates in the tier 2, we may see the impact of that.
Yeah, this is at the 20th unit is the lowest we've ever had our significant increase in terms of cost. Before it was always at unit 46.
Right.
So my feeling is that we're not going to see an increase. We're going to see some decrease. We just don't know how much. But up to this point in the year, we have got almost 300 acre feet. Again, that's using a running average based upon your numbers.
So you're projecting 5574 for the year.
Well, assuming that the rest of the year is exactly like it was at the end of the year.
Okay,
Okay, because then the running average would be the same. But it is down significantly, and of course, this budget is for, and, well, this is calendar year, not fiscal year, but this particular budget is for our fiscal year, which doesn't start until July, and then ends, end of next June. So from that standpoint, it's going to be down even more. All right? You see what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure that when we're calculating our numbers, that if our production numbers are down, then our delivery numbers are going to be down. And I just want to make sure that the numbers that we're using in calculating the budget, we're using the right, both production numbers and distribution numbers. Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I look at what we have as actuals for April, through April, May, no, it's the wrong one. I'll find it here.
are we on budget report layout? I'm a little confused.
Okay,
Is it,
the number that we were given,
I'm just asking, are we on budget report layout or actually doing the budget?
we're doing the budget,
Okay, so there's nothing on item 8 then?
item 8, right. But we jumped at what the
Had
year-end
gone to-
estimate.
We were at what we thought was 8, and then we weren't. We were actually at 9, and then we went back to 8 to discuss budget reports layout.
Okay,
Right, and now,
but we don't seem to be discussing the layout, we're discussing the specifics of the budget.
so hold
Are
your
we on to-
comments
have we
until we're
moved
done
on
with the
to-
layout, please.
Are we on to number 10 then?
I don't know, Don.
Okay,
I don't know. Let me see if I can sort that out.
okay.
Right.
Okay,
Are you, excuse me, Stan, are you satisfied that you've been able to give your budget reports layout?
No, this was an item requested by Director Rotora
Okay,
for our monthly report layout, as far as I know, so I added it on. to
what does
the
it
agenda.
mean? Do we do,
I think he wants something reported differently. Is it,
okay, we're talking about,
the budget reports layout? What did you have in mind when you asked for that to be added?
the item number 1 of the revenue is total water sales. And I apologize, first of all. 'cause
Okay.
I thought we were talking about the budget as opposed to the budget report layout. Okay. That number is a very big number, and it incorporates both the fixed fee and the commodity fee. And I would like to see that broken out so that we can tell when we're going through these budget numbers, what is tracking and what isn't tracking.
You'd like to have that item, total water sales, split into commodity sales and fixed charges?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's the right, I'm assuming that's all that's in that.
that includes zone charges, arsenic charges,
Well, that's part of the arsenic is part of the fixed charge.
so, yeah. The issue's gonna be that when we bill these accounts, it all goes to the same line item. No, late fees wouldn't be there. And it takes us a couple weeks to be able to run the report to split out and pull out the fixed charge and move it into the fixed charge line item. So you wouldn't have you wouldn't have the numbers in there for the current month when we are at our committee meeting. It's probably another week
You'd be
away.
at least a month behind.
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll skew it, so it'll look like there's more in commodity charges than there are in fixed charges.
All right.
And that's just the way the billing system works.
Is there a particular reason you wanted those split out, Stan?
Well, it's the primary, as a matter of fact, if you ignore the GSA fees, it's like 90% of the budget. And I guess my feeling is that typically the fixed fees ought to be pretty constant, and it's the volatility in the commodity fee. And right now, we are showing very rapid drop in water production, which means we're going to show a rapid drop in distribution. And in order to get a handle on where the issues are, you can't look at a number like $9 million and get anything useful out of it.
Okay, so there's a for general informational purposes for the rest of the directors, I think keeping the total under water sales as a combined total is much easier for the other directors to digest where we are financially, which is the purpose of the report. If you are concerned about a dramatic drop in water sales and how it's impacting the budget, then if you'd like to address that, I think we need to bring that up with the rest of the board and talk about whether that is a concern shared by the board of directors. Then we can communicate with our general manager at that point and issue instructions to the general manager. But at this time, I'm not inclined to split that out.
Yeah, and I was planning on actually in the review of the agenda to add that to the agenda. So
Okay,
I've
so
got
Add it. And
plan to have it, yeah.
And then we'll add it to that and let the board talk about
Yeah.
that.
And again, I apologize.
That's all right.
I didn't understand what the agenda item was.
No worries. So is that it then for the budget layout? Okay.
Yes. yeah.
All right. I'm going to leap ahead to the future then. To item 10, general fund and capital projects budgets. I know it's exhausting. It's making my ankle hurt.
Okay, is it okay if I go through at least this first sheet, just to, kind of give the layout? It will be the operations budget.
Okay.
I think we should take them kind of, we do the operations, finish that discussion, and then go to the capital projects.
Okay. So we'll hold our comments on the general budget until you're done with the general budget, and then we'll move on to capital projects.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the 2023 approved budget. These are the columns, 2023 year-end estimate and the 2024 proposed budget. For the water sales revenue, I have actually found that with the new rate structure, it's much easier to calculate what the revenue is going to be on a usage basis, since it's all a uniform rate. So I took last year, the last 12 months of usage, took that at 95% and calculated that consumption out, as well as taking the number of accounts and size and calculating out the fixed fees. So this is 95% of the water consumption for the last 12 months.
And what was that number?
It's in my spreadsheets. I don't have it on hand. It's in HCFs. I don't have.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that when I comment.
Okay. Also includes half a year of the 8% rate increase that would go into effect January 1st. The GSA fees pass through is a little more difficult. I've been using the water the study, the rate study, using Mark's numbers at a 95% as well for the GSA pass-through revenue. Capital contributions, we took a look at what we thought was coming up in the next year. You can see a significant decrease in that. We had a large payment for this last year. What was it for? The Mojave View apartments. But there may be we did include one of the hotels, and there may be some other stuff coming, but this is what we felt comfortable with as for sure capital contributions. For expenditures, you see they don't change a whole lot. We did for salaries, we did include the 5% COLA as, that's what we're estimating at for as the MOU states. We did increase the budget for arsenic treatment plants, and that's because we have to run them more. With the 30-inch line down, that's gonna be one of our major backbones. Trying to see any other big things. The GSA fee pass-through, so we did lower that number. I think we went with the 4190 number.
4198.
4198.
Yeah, I mean, that's to be determined. We need to have that discussion with the GA and come up with a process for determining the allotment every year without going through what we've been going through in recent years.
So that was our conservative number.
Okay.
There. The next page is the cash flow, the projected cash flow, beginning with 11,349,000. See total revenues of 17.5 million. We did put loan proceeds of 7.7 million. That'll shift with the DCIP, whether we get that grant or not. Everything else is just kind of on hold until we see where that grant's at. The operating expenses of 8.6 plus the other expenses bring total expenses to 23 million. That's including 8 million in capital improvement projects. Gives us a net cash flow of a positive 1.6 million and still leaves us, that gives us our debt service coverage ratio. We meet that. We do meet our fund reserve target, but we still don't meet our capital replacement target.
I'm sorry, we do not meet the capital replacement target?
No, we haven't since we updated the numbers, and we actually pulled from it this last year for the tanks.
Okay.
So, because that's currently at about 2 million.
Thank you.
10.8. Yeah. The following page would just be the cash flow for the current year. As you see, we have a negative cash flow of negative 7 million, and that's from the 9 million in capital improvements that we've done without any additional loan proceeds. We do meet for 2023, we do meet the debt service coverage ratio. So we're at 1.49. We do meet our fund reserve target, and we do not meet the capital replacement target. The rest of the reports are the line item budgets. I did include comments on the expenditure side for anything that I thought was a large variance or change in the budget allocation. Welcome, take a look. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them. This is more down in the weeds.
Okay.
So going back to the beginning, overall, the net for the 2023, we had budgeted at a negative 800,000. I estimate will come in at a negative 700,000. What that means is that we're not coming in short on cash, we're just not fully funding our depreciation. And that number, of course, is subject to change with how we go about with the GA fees we've already paid.
Okay.
So that can change. 2024, we're estimating a negative 290,000.
Is that closing the gap? Is that due, do you think, to the new rate structure?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
As you can see, our rate revenue, our revenues is up 1.69%, and I guess it's a combination because our expenditures are down 1.19%. Not a whole lot as percentage-wise, but there's the dollar amounts that it represents.
Okay. You ready for a question?
Yes.
So with the new rates As you were talking about, it would be easier in the future going forward. Obviously, the future going forward, the same thing. In going forward, it would be easier to split water charges from fixed fees, from all those other things because of the simplified rate structure.
No, it's easier to calculate how much we're gonna get per unit of water sold, because we know every unit costs $1.82.
Right. So it's kind of a hairball of rates, and that'll,
Right.
that's getting untangled, so, right, okay.
Yeah, I don't have to estimate, how much in tier 1, how much in tier 2, 3, 4, and what revenue goes along with that, because they're different rates. So that makes it easier projecting out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Stan, what do you got?
Right, so from that standpoint, it might be easier to, instead of looking at dollars, to look at actual water distributed. Is that a fair statement? That is, if we have a year distribution budget and we look at what we assumed we were budgeting versus what we actually distribute, that would be easier than trying to break out dollars, look at only water units.
So let me see
And
if I
I'm not hung up on dollars.
see if I
What I'm
can,
trying to do is figure out how we compare what we project that we're going to pump or distribute with what we're actually pumping and distributing.
so let me see if I understand you. What you're really concerned about is projections as to the effect of continued water savings in terms of conservation, et cetera, on the budget in the long term. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's not something we can get to today, and that's certainly a staff function, and we can talk about that with the board and see if that's a report, if there's some sort of report that would meet that we deliver on a monthly or quarterly basis. Okay, that's a staff, that analysis is definitely a staff function.
Yeah,
Okay,
right. But it might be simpler. It doesn't have to be broken out. I mean, it's not a dollar issue. It's, we know how much water we're distributing. So it just is. And we know what we were assuming or the budget assumes that we're going to be distributing. So we ought to be able to look at, are we distributing the amount of water that we are access? So I will include that little
Please.
caveat in mind.
I would, yeah, but
In my-
appreciate that.
in my
Board
write-up.
can address that, and we can get it squared away.
Okay, and in our, the monthly budget for the first 5 months, we have actuals at 9.6 million. And we're saying in one more month, we're going to be at 11.2 million. And I'm a part of that, I think, as you said, is the accrual issue
Accrual and the rates.
and the rates going.
Because the rates are changing.
Well, yeah. I guess that, well, we'll see, I guess. It's too early to tell. However, when we extrapolate based upon 95%, and you are using last year's distribution, and I know that we are our distribution, if it mimics the pumping, which I'm assuming it does, we are, and by the way, Don, I would appreciate if you would check the numbers that I've got on this sheet here to verify you either agree or disagree. And it's pretty straightforward. It's just using your numbers in terms of calculating a running average over the last year from last May to this May.
The 5574 represents the first 5 months of this year.
Right, and the last 7 months of
7 months.
last year. Right. But we also know that the slope has been pretty consistent, and it is going to continue to go down. And what I want to make sure is that we are using numbers that truly represent what we are going to distribute, and therefore the amount of funding that we are going to get.
So looking at your last two numbers on your spreadsheet, the difference between them is a 5% decrease.
Okay. But of course, that does not include the 6th month of this year, which is, see, in my mind, that GSA fee that starts at the 20th unit, because it is like 25 units less than our other Tier 4, 46. It could have a significant impact on the amount of water that we actually distribute.
So let's,
But we won't know until we actually have enough
Right.
data.
so
You know-
I have a phone call with Mal in a couple of minutes. So if we could move to the next, conclude this and move to the next
Okay,
items,
I guess,
appreciate it.
to make a long story short, I guess what I would like to do is to make sure that the numbers that calculate that 12.9 is thoroughly wrung out and thoroughly understood, and you can explain at our meeting on Monday exactly how much water you think we're going to distribute,
Well,
because then it's real easy to multiply by
can't direct
1.82.
staff to do that. That has to go through the general manager.
So,
All
you
right.
understand what I'm saying, right? I just want to make sure that 12.9 million is a reasonable number based upon real expected distribution numbers.
Okay, all right, very good. Staff, is there anything else on item 10?
Just the capital budget.
Okay, please.
So there's not a whole lot here in the capital budget as far as projects, except for the two big ones, of course, which is the Inyokern 30-inch line that we have budgeted at 5 million, and the Springer 24-inch line at 3.4 million. That one is on hold until we see what progresses with Inyokern 30. Everything else, we got the well 33. We talked about that at the last meeting. We're gonna may pull the pump and see what that looks like. Well 17 MCC, which Jason will have to tell me what that means. The electrical, okay. Ridgecrest Heights booster, the new service installations we have every year along with fire hydrants. We're the end of the 3/4 inch meter base replacement, miscellaneous computer purchases, vehicles, and miscellaneous capital purchases.
Okay. So the Unicorn, sorry, the Springer 24 is, if we do get the grant, that will then allow us to go forward with the Springer 24-inch?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you. Stan, any question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Very good. All right. Let's then go, is that it then, Ty?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, item 11, accounts payable disbursements.
Okay, we got the two sets here again. On the first page, the big item, 41,000 to the Groundwater Authority, that was for the pumping fee, and SCE for almost 25,000. Page 2, the Aqua JPIA insurance for almost 63,000. Jim Burke Ford for 46,000, that's the new flatbed for the vacuum. We've been waiting about 2 years for delivery on.
Yikes.
Krager and Stewart for 87,000, working on the various projects. Lane Christensen, 43,500, that was for well 31, right? McMurtry Hartsockworth St. Lawrence for 52,000, Murphy and Everett's for 34,000. Onstott 17,428, that's for patching. And RSH Construction Services, 240,000 for the tanks.
Okay.
Next page, Univar for 9,100, I believe that's chemicals.
Yep.
Following page, the 225,000 for the Groundwater Authority for the replenishment fee, And then the last page, we got Corey Lara Construction for $176,000. That's been all the raising and lowering of the valve cans for the city's paving projects. On-stock construction, $21,672 for more patching. Parker groundwater for $17,000 for Tim Parker's work. And pure flow filtration for $121,000. That is the under drain installation at the arsenic plant.
Replacing the old system that was no longer supported by the vendor we can't get a hold of.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
cool. All right. Stan, anything?
I have no question. They look pretty straightforward to me. I would recommend that we request that the board approve the
Okay,
accounts
concur.
payable.
I concur. All right, was that it then, Ty?
that's it.
All right, then let's go to item 12, future agenda items.
No,
Okay, just the one we'll talk about at the board meeting.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, then I will go ahead and, unless there's other comments from staff, Jim, no, anybody? All right, then now that my phone has decided to torpedo me, 3:16 PM, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.